What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Today we're gonna be talking about this asshole.
Hello everybody, Wild Bill for America here.
Oh, and what are we talking about there, Billy boy?
And again, America's in mourning because school children were shot down in cold blood right here in Florida.
Fucking great. He's gonna be telling us about how God was taken out of schools and all this other bullshit, and that's the reason why people got shot up this past week, which was a very horrible thing that happened, and anybody using the incident like this asshole is right here should really reconsider doing so. Now, just to preface this video today, I want to say that I think that there can be a mixture of gun control and mental health reform to help lessen the impact of these incidents on our society. Of course, this particular incident happened because of a snafu in the FBI with investigating the individual. People were reporting this guy for his behavior, but the slip up in the government prevented him from actually being investigated. So basically what I'm trying to say is that Bill isn't going to present anything true or accurate in whatever he has to say about this incident.
17 high school students shot dead right in their school. What in the world has happened to American schools? Why are these mass shootings, these killings happening?
These are great questions, but if you're expecting Billy Boy here to actually give us the answers to these questions or any kind of good, maybe an answer, you're going to be very disappointed.
I'm going to tell you why. Here's a Wild Bill bullet of truth for America.
Phrasing, Bill. I mean, I know that you're trying to be punny, but damn, kids died. Kids died, Bill.
These horrible school shootings are taking place because we, the people of the United States, allowed hardcore atheists to take over the education system.
I have no idea how this actually makes sense. Like, I get that he hates atheists, but claiming that we have taken over the education system is just bullshit. I mean, I think that it's because we collectively as a society have started policing the Christian overreach that has been permeating through our government and our public school system. Just because we've started paying attention and stopping you from pushing your religion on people doesn't mean that you're being persecuted there, Bill. And, for you to paint, following the law as persecution is very telling of how you see the world. Basically through persecuted lenses.
They drove the Christian teachers out and forced their damnable atheism down the throats of American children. And that is why these students are dead today.
I guess Billy Boy here would rather see Jesus being shoved down the throats of children in schools. We quite literally don't jam atheism down anybody's throats, let alone children. Making Billy Boy here, as well as Christians just like him, follow the separation of church and state is persecution to them. Preventing you from shoving Jesus down the throats of children is not against the law, and it's definitely not taking away your religion.
And don't give me that separation of church and state garbage.
Fuck! I forgot that Billy Boy and asshole Christians like him love to just throw facts right out the window and just start making shit up.
Thomas Jefferson wrote that separation of church and state letter back in the 1700s as a promise to the churches that the government would never do to the Christian church what the government is doing today.
Actually, Jefferson said this: believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legislative powers of government reach actions only and not opinions. I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature would make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. Adhering to this expression of the supreme will of the nation in behalf of the rights of conscience, I shall see with sincere satisfaction the progress of those statements which tend to restore to man all his natural rights, convinced he has no natural right in opposition to his social duties. You see, a lot of people get hung up on the part here that's about make no law. You don't have to make a law about forcing Jesus onto people for you to actually be violating the separation of church and state. While it is correct to say that nobody is actively passing a law or enforcing a law to shove Jesus down the throats of people, you don't have to do that in order to violate the separation of church and state. Using any public money in order to push a certain religion is a violation of the First Amendment. It also doesn't make sense for him to, interpret Jefferson in the way that he is, because with the statement lies solely between a man and his God, it's totally unreasonable to interpret that to be a sort of one-way street for the separation of church and state, being that the church can influence the state. In fact, Justice Black on Engel v. Vitale, which is the case where the prayer in schools actually got brought up, he had this to say about the separation of church and state. It is no part of the official business of government to compose official prayers for any group of American people to recite as part of a religious program carried out by the government. So you see, any use of public money or public time or property to push any certain religion just simply isn't part of the government and should never be. This would include state and local governments.
Thomas Jefferson insisted that the Bible be the primary textbook of American schools. Why? Because he knew that that was the best way to give American students a good start in life.
Actually, this part's completely wrong. This is what Jefferson actually said. Instead, therefore, of putting the Bible and Testament into the hands of children at an age when their judgments are not sufficiently matured for religious inquiries, their memories may here be stored with the most useful facts from Grecian, Roman, European, and American history. So no, Jefferson didn't feel like the Bible should be a standard textbook in public schools, and would be completely opposite to how he felt about faith in general.
So here's the question of the day. If the men who wrote the Constitution insisted that Christianity be taught in the schools, how can that possibly be unconstitutional?
Well, they didn't, and it's still unconstitutional no matter how much Christian revisionist history you can pull out of David Barton's ass.
Answer, it's not. Never has been. Kicking the Christian faith out of American schools is a crime against God and America. The Christian faith teaches that man was created in the image of God and that we are accountable to God Almighty. That one day we will all stand before God to be judged for every thought, word, and deed in this life.
Well, do you think that he'll judge you for knowingly pushing false information as fact? That's called lying. He burns people for that. Also, God hasn't really been shown to exist, so I doubt that his ass will actually be doing anything.
That knowledge is the most effective restraint on evil acts like these school shootings.
No, it isn't. If that were the case, then there'd be no Christian terrorists whatsoever. I mean, these people do these things in the name of God because they feel like they're doing their Christian duty. Just because someone believes in God, it doesn't prevent them from killing someone. Just like not believing in God doesn't prevent an atheist from doing the exact same shit.
Christianity commands with the full authority of God, thou shalt not kill, along with all those other commandments like honor your father and mother, do not lie, do not steal, treat others the way you would like to be treated.
Thou shalt not kill has no more power to stop somebody from committing murder than like saying thou shalt not steal prevents the Republicans from stealing from the American people to build their fucking wall. Your God commands absolutely no authority at all.
Christianity through the cross of Christ brings hope for the future, hope that has been stolen from American students. The atheists who are running our schools have taught the students that they are nothing but animals, and the students act like animals.
Well, we are animals, but that doesn't mean that just because we recognize that fact that we have to devolve into some kind of anti-social shit-throwing contest. And just because you think you're special doesn't mean that you're actually special. Well, you're kind of special, but not in the way that you think. While we are just animals, we are obviously different than other animals on this planet. While there may be some animals there that are more sentient than others, we possess a higher functioning brain that causes us to be self-aware of our life and everything like that. Just because we are set separate in that way, it doesn't mean that we're specially created, though.
The truth about hell has been stolen from the students. The truth is that students who die as unrepentant sinners without Jesus Christ will suffer in hell for eternity.
Wow. Seriously? What's your fucking problem, man? I mean, I get it that you think that everybody just needs Jesus Christ, but are you seriously going to go up to someone grieving over their dead child and say, oh, you know he's burning in hell, right? Yeah, he's getting that pineapple shoved deep inside. Like, are you seriously doing that right now? How much of an asshole can you be as a Christian? I get that you think that you're doing God's work, and you think that God is somehow smiling upon your actions here, but I can guarantee you he's flipping you the bird as well. I mean, honestly, I don't say this about a lot of people, but you are a total shit person. There's no reason to think that hell exists. It has not been proven to actually exist. You know, an engineer actually figured out that heaven, being that it's a lot closer to the sun or whatever the fuck, it would actually be a whole lot hotter than the actual hell that they think of, because magma and everything at the center of the earth comes nowhere near to the heat of the sun. This guy's just being an asshole for no reason whatsoever. And he's utilizing what I call asshole Christianity. That's where you're an asshole, but you're doing it for God, and you think that he's smiling upon you, but really he's just flipping you the bird.
When somebody dies, you often hear the atheists say things like, well, all his problems are over now. He's in a better place.
I mean, sometimes we might say that someone's not suffering anymore because they were in pain before they died, and so now they're not suffering. But nobody here is thinking that your problems just up and disappear after somebody dies. That doesn't even make sense to say. I mean, there are new problems that arise because we feel that pain and that loss, regardless of faith. Now, that's not his problem, but it is our problem, and we feel the effects of him dying. And personally, I feel the only way that we can really live on after our lives end is through the memories of other people. And that's why I try to be good to people on a daily basis, because I want to be remembered in that way. And in that way, you can have some semblance of an afterlife. It's not a conscious afterlife like this asshole thinks, but at least it's some kind of afterlife. And no atheist would say that they are in a better place. That's just ridiculous for you to say. We don't believe in an afterlife. At least in the afterlife that you think you have.
Rest in peace. And the ignorant students believe that. They think that if they kill themselves, all their problems will be over. And since they're nothing but animals, hey, why not take a gun and go out on a bloody rampage?
You obviously have no idea how depression or suicide fucking works. You act like people just wake up one day and is like, well, I'm just gonna go out there and fucking mow down some people and suicide by cop myself. Like, people don't just up and decide to do that one day. They've been mulling it around for a while. It's part of their nature. This isn't just something that you decide to do one day. But a lot of Christians, like Billy Boy here, think that you can just up and decide to do anything, whether it's out of your character or not. It's totally out of my character for me to go out there and mow down a bunch of people with an AK-47. I wouldn't do that ever at all for any reason. But Billy Boy here thinks that you can just up and decide to do that one day because, whatever the fuck reason you can come up with. Why are you so goddamn remedial?
So why do we allow this unconstitutional, un-American atheism to continue in our schools?
Well, we don't allow that there, Billy Boy. We want to keep church and God out of our government and public school systems. Because once you start pushing God through the government and the schools, you effectively become a theocracy, and that's not what we want. Actually, that is exactly what created this fucking country to begin with. An asshole theocracy.
We have the solution to the problem. Just bring back the God-centered educational standards that America had for the first 230 years of American history.
This is totally wrong yet again. There wasn't a God-centered education for 230 years prior to whatever the fuck he says. If you really wanted to be pedantic about it, you could say 383 years. That's regardless of the fact of the whole God-centered thing, but that was when the first public school opened in the colonies. The first publicly funded school, though, opened during the American government that we know now, started about 181 years ago with Horace Mann. He was the Secretary of Education for Massachusetts. He started a Prussian-style common school system for all of the children in his area to get the same education. This is basically the start of the public school system. Now, prior to this, the population was mainly Protestant, but once Catholics started moving in and putting up these private, purely Catholic schools, the Blaine Amendments were proposed, and they actually came in and prevented public money from being spent on these private Catholic schools. But it was written in a way so that no public money could be used for those types of religious institutions. So you're saying that we've had God-centered education for 230 years. That number is nowhere right. 181 years would be the time, and from basically the beginning of the public school system, we have wanted to keep God out of it. So I really don't understand what the fuck you're talking about, and I can only assume that you're using David Barton as your primary source for any of this information.
Bring moral education back into our schools and kick the atheists and their lies out. Our children deserve better.
Well, you know, Wild Bill, you're really not just kicking atheists out of all this, but you're kicking other religious parents out. Now, do you remember me mentioning the Engel v. Vital case about public prayer in schools? Well, actually, that was brought up by religious people. Religious people didn't want prayer in schools. They felt that it was a deeply personal relationship, and they wanted to be the ones to teach their children about God instead of forcing them to say, like, the Lord's Prayer every day before school. Now, it got branded as an atheist movement when Madalyn Murray O'Hair, the founder of American Atheists, got involved and really backed the movement. So it's not just atheists that want you to stop doing this fucking shit with the prayer in schools and funding religion in schools. It's also other religious parents. Now, this has continued today, especially with the Johnson Amendment. One of the things that President Trump has said that he's wanted to do is get rid of it. And he's already taken a lot of major steps in order to do that. But when it was announced that that would become a reality, many religious people out there voiced opposition to it because they didn't want their churches to become politicking places. They didn't want politics to invade the church. They wanted the church to be about the relationship between man and God, just like Thomas Jefferson wanted it to be. So you're trying to push this whole idea that pushing God through the public school system is what the founders wanted and what has been installed in our schools ever since they were started. Obviously, that's not true, and that's not the sentiment of the American people today. So you can keep up with this whole Christian revisionist history if you want to, but that's not going to make you any more correct in what you're saying. Thank you, heathens, for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider sharing it out with your friends, as well as leaving a comment down below. Don't forget to smash that like button while you're down there, and subscribe if you want more content like this. I will see you heathens later, and don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.